This is Carey Wilson, inviting you to go on a little journey with me. A journey into the mysterious, the fantastic, the metaphysical. A journey into the dim recesses of the past, so that perhaps we might be permitted to see ahead into the future. So let's pretend we're in France, nearly 400 years ago. We are eavesdropping on one of the most famous women in all history. Your name is Catherine de Medici. You are now 70 years old. You were born in Italy, the grandniece of Pope Leo X. When you were only 14 years old, he married you off magnificently to the Duke of Orleans. Catherine de Medici, do you remember back half a lifetime to the year 1558, when you were Her Most Christian Majesty the Queen, because your husband has become Henry II, King of France. You're a queen of boundless ambition, Your Majesty. You plan to bring all of Europe under your control by seating your children, notably your sons, on other European thrones. You're a little disturbed at the moment, Catherine. A new book has just been published, The Prophecies of Michel de Nostradamus. Michel de Nostradamus, a brave man who has ventured to write 1,000 verses, curious, cryptic little verses that purport to tell all that will happen to the world in the future. He's an aging man, this Nostradamus, but to his lifetime fame as doctor and scientist, he has now added that of prophet. Fearful knowledge indeed he has gathered in his long years of secret study, his use of mathematics, astronomy, astrology, with which to peer across the dark threshold into the blackness of the future unknown. The wars, the famines, the revolutions, the lives and the deaths that are myriad dots on the vast panorama of our future world, all are now written down on the printed page for all who may inhabit this puzzling planet to read. Nor is Nostradamus surprised when comes a peremptory summons. He knows it is from Catherine, the Queen of France. He knows what she will want, too. You're a reasonable woman, Catherine de Medici, aren't you? You're no scoffing skeptic. You share the belief with all the scientists of your day that it is possible to foretell the events of the future. But you do question the obscurity of the words in which Nostradamus has expressed his prophetic revelations. Now, which of these weirdly worded verses pertain to you, to your husband the king, but most importantly, to the sons for whom you have such regal ambitions? A verse such as this one, for instance. About your royal husband, Henry II, King of France. This verse? This is absurd, isn't it, Catherine? Your husband, Henry II, to what? To die in a golden cage? This prophecy about your oldest son, Francis? But this is utterly ridiculous. Francis is only 16, and you've arranged to marry him to Mary, Queen of Scots, which will make him King of Scotland. And this verse about your second son, Charles? Incredible. Charles' future is already settled. You're going to marry him to young Bess in London. That will make him King of England. Your third son, Your Majesty, that would be young Henry. What's this? Assassinated? Assassinated by a clement hand? Nonsense. Henry is now but 4 years of age. Already you're scheming to make him the King of Poland. You grow impatient, don't you, Catherine? These vague, obscure verses do not achieve either your belief or your interest. What you want is a simple answer to a simple question. Will your sons be crowned kings on European thrones? But Nostradamus has already cast special horoscopes for the three sons. Yes, all three will sit on thrones of Europe. All three? Francis, Charles, Henry? That's better, isn't it, Catherine? With your husband on the throne of France and your three sons on the thrones of Scotland, England, and Poland, you could well control Europe, couldn't you, Catherine? But wait, there's one more thing. Will you live to see these three sons as kings? You will? Now indeed does your most Christian Majesty Queen Catherine of France well and truly believe in Nostradamus, who has told you all you want to know. But has he? I wonder. So, Your Majesty, in this, the 70th year of your life, you recall those prophecies Nostradamus showed you back in 1558. You review them again. First, that verse about your husband, Henry II. The young lion shall vanquish the old on the field of honor in single combat. His eyes he will pierce through a cage of gold. 2 wounds, then death, a bitter death. It happened, didn't it, Catherine? It happened just that way, just 1 year later, just 1 year after Nostradamus showed you that ridiculous prophecy. Remember? You were marrying your daughter most successfully to King Philip of Spain. Thus you hoped, adding Spain to your dreams of influence over France, Scotland, England, and Poland. Your husband, Henry II, quite properly took his part in the accompanying sports of knighthood. But suddenly there is a mishap. Lance is splintered, and the king's opponent, the captain of his own Scottish guards, wounds the king grievously, the jagged points of the captain's lance piercing the king's visor. Yes, the young lion did vanquish the old on the field of honor in single combat. The eyes pierced, then death, yes, a bitter death. And the fantastically impossible cage of gold was, of course, the golden bars of the king's golden helmet. Then there was the verse about your oldest son, wasn't there? How did that verse read? The first son makes a childless marriage. The widow brings strife to 2 islands. Before his 18th year he dies, not yet a man. Well, Catherine de Medici, your first son, Francis, did marry that beautiful Mary, Mary, Queen of Scots, bitter rival of Queen Elizabeth I of England. The 2 islands in strife, obviously England and Scotland. For there was strife, yes, strife unto the imprisonment and death of Mary, Queen of Scots. And Francis did not become King of Scotland. A childless marriage, yes, there were no children, remember. That first son, Francis, had become King of France following your husband's death. But only a year later he died, just before his 18th birthday, never the man for whom you had such dreams. And now your second son, Charles, what was it Nostradamus wrote about him? The next son affianced at an early age. Yes, he was. But to an Austrian princess, not to young Bess of London. No, Charles was never King of England. But on the sudden death of his brother Francis, he, your second son, became Charles IX, King of France. But then he died, too. And your third son, Henry, such wonderful plans you had for Henry. And what did Nostradamus write? The king shall be destroyed by clement hand. Let's see. While his brother Charles was King Charles IX of France, young Henry was elected King of Poland. You maneuvered that successfully, Catherine. But when Charles died, Henry had to become King of France as Henry III. And about that assassination, let's look at the original French. Nostradamus wrote the word for king twice because he knew Charles was to be King of Poland and later King of France. But that word, dues, note that Nostradamus began it with a capital D to make it a proper name. In French, that word means Clement. Therefore, a man named Clement. Catherine, your third son, Henry III, as you now well know, was destroyed, assassinated by a fanatic whose name was Jacques Clement. Yes, Catherine, each of your 3 sons sat on a throne, but it was the same throne, the throne of France, your husband's throne. Thus Nostradamus was also right that you would live to see your 3 sons kings. The lady alone shall remain to rule. Her reign will be blessed with long life. Yes, Catherine de Medici, you lived to see it all happen. The lady alone remains. And as your life fades into nothingness, your majesty, you think only of that night in 1558 when Nostradamus tried to tell you what would happen. Of course, Catherine de Medici died long before the United States of America came into existence. But Nostradamus made some predictions about us, too. The chosen protector of the great country for endless years will hold the famed torch. It will serve to guide this great people, and in its name they will struggle and triumph. Yes, the people of the 13 colonies chose freedom as the protector of this land. For endless years, freedom has and will hold up the famed torch. In freedom's name we have struggled, we shall continue the struggle, and shall finally triumph, not without the sacrifice and not without the pain that must forever make mankind free. Nostradamus wrote those words almost 400 years ago. Michel de Nostradamus. Was he charlatan, trickster, or one gifted beyond all other men to peer into the unknown? What do you think?